Aloha and welcome to Action Island. I am Gilles Gallant, and we are here to wrap up NFL Week 4 with a Monday Night Football doubleheader. We got the Jets and Dolphins and the Bengals and Broncos on tap tonight. Now, the four of us, I'm joined as always with Nick Giffen. I've got Derek Carty. I've got Kyle Murray. They are going to join me today. We're going to give out two favorite bets for tonight's slate. So it could either be for the early game or the late game. Then we're going to vote on those picks. We'll decide which pick is going to stay as a parlay leg and which one will go by the end of the show. We'll either have a same game parlay for you or we'll have a two game parlay. Either way, it's going to be four legs and it's going to be pretty sweet. So also, as we give out these bets, all of our picks, they're going to be dropping links in the chat. You can be able to tail those bets as quickly as possible with a quick slip, take you directly to the sportsbook so you can get the best price and the best numbers. So Kyle, let's get started. Are you where are we looking here? Where are we starting? Are we starting with the early slate, late slate? Tell me where we go.
Yeah, both my picks are going to be in the back half of this doubleheader here. I'm looking at the Cincinnati and Denver game. I'm taking the under J.K. Dobbins, 66.5 rushing yards. If you do a little bit of box score watching, it could be a scary under as J.K. Dobbins is coming off two pretty good performances in weeks 2 and 3. He's looked pretty healthy. He's looked good in that Denver uniform, but I'm still looking to fade him here in this spot, averaging just 13.7 carries per game. And while the Broncos do have a good chance to be pretty run heavy in this one as 7.5 point favorites, they have been fifth in pass rate over expectation so far this season. They have no problem, allowing Bo Nix to drop back. He's been fine using his legs as well. You do have RJ Harvey, rookie running back, waiting behind J.K. Dobbins to mix in as well. Wouldn't be surprised to see him get a little bit more involved. It's difficult to project that, but I think it's always a potential narrative or angle in a J.K. Dobbins under. But bottom line is Dobbins really hasn't had that high end volume in terms of rush attempts, so he's been relying on efficiency, and he's had three straight games with 19-yard runs or longer in each of those games, including a 44-yard run last week. But when you look at the matchup here, I don't think this is a spot that you're going to consistently project Dobbins to break a long one, as the Bengals are allowing just a 3% rate of 15-yard carries or longer on the rush attempts that they face so far this season. So J.K. Dobbins projecting for right around 62 rushing yards in our Roto Grinders model. So looking under here for 66.5 rushing yards for Dobbins.
Yeah, I think you bring up a good point, Kyle, about the long rushes here, and just also the fact that the Bengals defense, even though there are some weaknesses, it hasn't been allowed on the long runs. So, considering that Dobbins really has been making his hay with those long runs, if we can just keep that long run under in check, I think you're feeling pretty good about an under at 66 and a half. So that's the first bet from Kyle Murray. Quick slip is dropped in the link. J.K. Dobbins under 66 and a half rushing yards. So you said you have two bets from the same game. Are we staying on the Broncos side or are we heading over to the Bengals side?
Yeah, we're going to the other side here. We're looking at Jamar Chase over 5.5 catches. Obviously, the splits when you're looking at Joe Burrow versus Jake Browning are going to be, not as pretty when you're talking about Jamar Chase, but nonetheless, I do like him to have at least six grabs in this one. He has an 85% catch rate over the last 2 weeks with Jake Browning under center, and I think a lot of that is due to the Bengals just looking to mix in, short plays, screen passes to get the ball in Jamar Chase's hands as easily and as quickly as possible. That's resulted in a decreased ADOT of just 6.4 over that time. So I think all the numbers are backing up that potential narrative of just trying to get Jamar Chase the ball in his hands and whatever way Browning can do so. And over those 2 weeks as well, 22 targets, but 21 first read plays and design targets. So very clearly, Jamar Chase should and will be a focal point of the Bengals offense. So I'm looking at the catches over the yards properties because I do think it's going to be a lot of short intermediate plays for Jamar Chase, but they should be getting him involved. And they should have to throw the ball early and often, being 7.5 point underdogs here. So taking Jamar Chase for at least six grabs in this one.
Yeah, and a completely different defensive front of what they faced last week against the Vikings, who are much more zone heavy, very blitz heavy as well. Whereas obviously they're facing against the Broncos, much more man coverage as well. So again, I think that will lend itself to some Jamar Chase catches. So Nick, Derek, we got to take a vote. Are we going to take Jamar Chase to have at least six catches in this game, or are we going to fade J.K. Dobbins and we're going to take under 66 and a half rushing yards? Let's take a vote. All right, Nick, Derek, I voted for Dobbins. What are we looking at here? So I got Dobbins. You took Jamar, and you got Dobbins. All right. I liked both of these picks, Kyle. It was really for me. I think Dobbins, I think that long run stuff, I think that's going to be negated tonight. But Jamar Chase could definitely have six or more catches in this game if Browning starts to get back into form. So those are the two bets from Kyle Murray. Jamar Chase, 6+ catches, or J.K. Dobbins under 66.5 rushing yards. Links have been dropped in the YouTube chat. If you want to tail those, just click those links. It'll take you directly to the sportsbook. So now we move over to Derek Carty. Now, Derek, you have two bets that you like for tonight. Are they going to be from the same game, or are you moving around? What do you like tonight?
I'm bouncing around a little bit tonight. So the first one that I like is Josh Reynolds under 1.5 receptions plus 155. It's the best odds on the board. My projection system, the Blitz, has this projected to win about 55% of the time. And so at good plus money, it's giving us really good value. Reynolds has missed the last couple weeks. He's been banged up. He's just returning from injury this week. And there's no guarantee that he's still the number two receiver for the Jets. There's no guarantee that he's still ahead of Arian Smith, who played a lot last week, of Tyler Johnson, of Alan Lazard, who's back. And so just based on that alone, I think we're getting good value. But then also you look at the game environment. This game projects as one of the slower paced games of the week. It has double-digit wins projected to be blowing in this game. And the Jets have been the single most run-heavy team in all of football this year. And that's only accounting for dropbacks. That's not even accounting for scrambles, which Justin Fields, obviously, a lot of his dropbacks are going to turn into additional runs because he scrambles so much. Also, one of the worst throwing quarterbacks in football. And so this one sets up as having some good value here.
Yeah, I love the last point that you made about that for Reynolds, about you have a quarterback whose scramble rate, and a lot of the time it's not even intended draw. He just wants to run. And then the fact that his accuracy is not really something we talk about from a Justin Fields perspective. So Josh Reynolds under 1.5 receptions is the first bet that Derek likes. Derek, what's the next bet you like?
My next bet is Jake Browning over half of an interception, minus 172 is the best odds on the board. Obviously, we're laying some heavy juice for this one, but the Blitz thinks there's an 80% chance that Browning throws an interception, so we're okay, paying a little bit for this. I think people are noticing that last week the Bengals went very run heavy without Joe Burrow, but I don't think one game is necessarily indicative of what we should expect from them going forward with Browning under center. If we look at 2023, when Burrow missed 7 games and Browning stepped in, the team actually stayed very pass heavy enough that it would make them the third highest projected context neutral pass percentage team in the NFL this week. So very, very pass heavy still. And I mean, he's Jake Browning, so that helps.
See, I feel like the rest of the explanation was great. Thank you very much. But I feel like we could have probably just summed that up with that last sentence and probably still felt pretty good about the reasoning for why we're looking at Jake Browning. So, all right, Nick, Kyle, we have to take a vote here. Are we going to take Josh Reynolds under 1.5 receptions, or are we going to take Jake Browning to throw an interception? So let's take a vote. All right, which way are we going here? Are we going with Browning or are we going with Reynolds? I went with Brown. Brown, yuck, yucky Brown. INT. All right. So Jake Browning, interception. I remember Nick and I, we were joking about it, thinking about whether we wanted to like ladder the interceptions or whatever. The odds aren't quite there, but I think this is great for a leg for this parlay. So that is the second leg of the parlay. So we are taking Jake Browning to throw an interception, and we are going to pair that with J.K. Dobbins under 66.5 rushing yards. Now, Nick, before we get to you, I just want to remind everybody, if you want access to all of Action Pro projections, make sure to sign up for an annual subscription to Action Pro. Access includes exclusive player prop picks from Sean Kerner and other members of the Action Analytics team. Along with anytime touchdown projections, you'll get access to our best spread, money line, and total bets. To sign up, visit actionnetwork.com/pro today. Use code ISLAND20 at sign up. One more time, that is ISLAND20 at sign up for $20 off. All right, Nick. I got a feeling we're going to go with the luck rankings couple picks here. You did great on the luck rankings over the last 2 weeks on Action Playbook Live. Are we going that direction again?
Yeah, both these games are luck rankings games tonight, so we'll be heading with those angles. Start with early game, Miami, New York Jets, under 44.5, I think, is the consensus right now. You might be able to find some 45s out there. Looks like everything's at 44.5 right now. But this is a luck total of minus 1.99, which makes it a strong luck under. Anything minus 1.8 or lower is a strong luck under. Strong luck unders 47, 27, and 1 to the under since our luck rankings database starts in 2018. That's 63.5%. When I look at schedule adjusted expected scores, I actually have this game totaled at 45, not 44.5, but that's if we use our preseason priors at 40% still, which is about what I usually use them at this point in the season. But I would have this at like 39, 39 and a quarter if we just used 100% 2025 data so far. So definitely, I do think there's a lot of room for the under here. Miami's pass game has really been the big difference from last year to this year. Last year, they had a 53.2% success rate in games Tua played the full game as quarterback versus 43.3% passing success rate so far this year. Their passing explosiveness is down from 9% to 6.3%. But they do face the Jets, who are 30th in defensive pass DVOA so far this year. So the big question is that going to help Miami's offense enough? I think this total could come down to that. Will Miami's pass game get going? Because Jets, they rank 5th in defensive DVOA versus the rush. So there is a lot of scoring regression expected here because both these offenses and defenses have allowed points more than expectation. So I definitely side with the under here, under 44.5.
Yeah, and Nick, I think you make a good point about the fact of the passing explosiveness of how that's dropped off maybe a little bit year over year. I think the risky part that you talk about is when you look at the Dolphins just at home, if you're using that as a sample, they've done pretty well from an offensive standpoint. But that being said, that's why we have this 44 and a half. So that's one option here. We're looking at either the Jets Dolphins under 44 and a half. What's the second pick?
Yeah, I love this second one. This is the luck side, the third luck side of the week, and that's the Broncos as the favored unlucky team at minus 7.5. This has a luck score of minus 1.86. That means it is a C grade, pretty strong grade, 57.4 luck-based cover percentage. And favored unlucky teams are 53, 33, and 3 against the spread during our luck rankings database, which is 61.6%. Week 4 specifically, unlucky teams graded D or better are 17 and 2 against the spread, including 2-0 yesterday. And favored unlucky teams in week 4 are 7-0 against the spread since the start of 2018. And, Cardi just talked about Browning. Browning is horrendous, absolutely horrendous versus pressure. First of all, he allows a ton of pressure himself, about a 10% higher pressure rate that he bears responsibility for than Joe Burrow, both in 2023 and so far this year. And Cincy's O-line is absolutely atrocious in pass blocking. They are 32nd in pass block win rate. They have the third worst pressure rate above expectation allowed, which again, adjusts for the quarterback's time to throw. And so, if they're allowing a lot, and Browning is still responsible for it himself, I mean, this is just going to be pressure city, especially against the Broncos defense that ranks as high as number 1, depending on, there's a lot of sites out there that give pressure rates and stuff. But this is a Broncos team that absolutely, probably long-term is in the top 2 or 3 in pressure rate this season. Right now, they're 5th in pass rush win rate, for example. In Browning's career, adjusted net yards per attempt plus, so the plus means including scrambles, is 8.3 from a clean pocket, but just 2.1 under pressure. A lot of people are looking at, the Broncos play man defense, and Jake Browning has actually been pretty good against man coverage. Well, we got Pat Surtain, who's probably going to be on Jamar Chase a lot, and if not, he's going to be on T. Higgins. And, he has been very good this year, just like he was last year. I know a little drop off, but a lot of that was from the ankle injury in week 2 against Indianapolis. But this year, he's allowed a reception on just 7.5% of coverage routes, which is higher than the 5.9%. But again, a lot of that came in that week 2 game where he injured his ankle. He's fine now. 0 touchdowns allowed. So I just really like the Broncos at home in this spot. One of the strongest the strongest home field advantage in the NFL simply because of the altitude.
And just I love the Browning slander. That's the thing for me. I keep hearing this is like just keep it going. I could hear the correlation as you're just saying it out loud. But that being said, we do have to vote now. Are we going to take the Broncos minus 7.5, or are we going to take the Jets Dolphins under? So Derek, Kyle, let's take a vote. All right, guys. I ended up voting for the Broncos. I was swung. As soon as he talked about Jake Browning, I was swung. What about the under? Ah, I got outvoted. All right, Nick. Sorry, dude. Like I'm a guy. I ride with the luck rankings, so at least both of them were a luck rankings pick. So at least you knew that I was on that side, no matter what. So that is going to be the third leg now. So we are taking the under in the Jets Dolphins game. We are pairing that with the Jake Browning interception and the under on J.K. Dobbins rushing yards. So I've got a couple touchdown bets I like for these games. And before we round out this parlay, if you're on Twitter or X, we have a great new feature here at Action Network. It's called Playbook. And if you see a bet from any of your favorite action experts or anybody posting on gambling Twitter for that matter, you can now tag Playbook under the post, and a bot will build you a bet slip at the sports book of your choice, and it'll take you directly there. And especially with some of these more complicated parlays, you don't have to try and find all the different legs and the different markets. This will make it much easier for you. Just so use Playbook and build your bets the easy way. All right, so I've got two touchdown bets, one from each game. I'll start with the Jets-Dolphins game. I went with Justin Fields. He's around plus 240. He scored twice in week one. He leads the team in red zone carries, despite missing a game and a half. And the Dolphins defense hasn't really done much in stopping the run so far this year. 25th in defensive DVOA versus the run, 4 rushing touchdowns allowed. 3 of those to quarterbacks. Daniel Jones and Drake May both scored on them. And when I was looking at the start of last season as well, just to kind of talk about Fields and what he likes to do when they get inside the 10-yard line. 15 carries inside the 10-yard line and only like 6 starts. So when they get there, that's exactly what he likes to do, which is kind of like why Derek liked the Josh Reynolds under there, because there's probably not going to be a ton of passing opportunities. So if the Jets get in scoring range, I like for Fields to do what he does and call his own numbers. So that's the first option. But I do have one for the Broncos Bengals. I'm going to go on the Broncos side. I'm going to take Troy Franklin for an anytime touchdown. So he caught one in week 2. He's playing the second most snaps of any Broncos wide receiver. Marvin Mims popped up on the injury report yesterday. Now, there isn't anything news yet of that he's going to be out, but he could be limited for this game. And if that's the case, I think that just gives more opportunities for Franklin. And the Bengals, they do play man coverage at top 10 rate as well. Franklin then tends to see his target rate go up when facing man defense. So I think if the Broncos, they're going to be in a little bit more pass heavy script, especially if J.K. Dobbins isn't getting those carries and under on the rushing yards. So I think they'll be in a little bit more pass heavy script, which then lends itself to a Troy Franklin touchdown. So that one's around plus 275. So those are the two ones that I think that we could use to round out this parlay. Either Justin Fields for an anytime touchdown to go with that under, or we're going to take Troy Franklin touchdown with that Broncos minus 7.5. So Derek, Nick, Kyle, let's take a vote. All right, guys, which way are we going? We're going with Justin Fields, going for the scramble, Franklin end zone. I got Fields, Franklin. Oh, nope, 2 Franklin. Sorry, the writing sometimes on these cameras, I can't read anymore. I think it's just me getting old. So, okay. So, Troy Franklin is going to be the final touchdown bet for this. So, let's round out this parlay. So, we have J.K. Dobbins under on his rushing yards. It's around 66.5. We're going to take Jake Browning for an interception. We're taking the under, though, in the Jets-Fins game, under 44.5, and pairing that with a Troy Franklin anytime touchdown. Right now, that parlay is around 18-1 at DraftKings. I am seeing it right now just under 22-1 at Bet365 as well. Nick, I wanted to talk to you about this parlay because you liked the Jets Fins, but how do you feel about the Jets Fins Broncos minus 7.5? I feel like if we'd done Broncos minus 7.5, we'd just have a full Broncos Bengals parlay here. What are you thinking about this, though, as far as being able to have the Jets Fins in there instead of the Broncos minus 7.5?
Yeah, well, one kind of sneaky correlation here is Jake Browning throwing all these interceptions, and maybe that gives some defensive touchdowns or some short fields. And so then Dobbins suddenly isn't having long fields to even work with to break some rushes. So kind of sneaky correlation there. When you would think it'd be kind of anti-correlated, you'd think, if let's say we took the Broncos -7.5 and they're just blowing out Cincy, then there would just be all this volume for J.K. Dobbins. But not if the defense is scoring touchdowns, not if he's working with short fields. So pretty sneaky there. And then that allows us to go with the Jets and the Fins under as well.
So Kyle, I wanted to ask you because you ended up taking Justin Fields as the touchdown bet instead of Troy Franklin. What were you thinking here on that front?
Yeah, I think you mentioned the volume that Fields has had in the red zone, but when you're looking at the matchup for opposing quarterbacks so far, Miami actually allowing the third most rushing attempts to opposing quarterbacks this season. So I do think he's going to have some sneaky volume for Justin Fields. I think obviously he'll be involved down in the red zone. I think he obviously has the upside to break a long one as well. So I think a lot of things are looking good for the Jets, and especially if the Dolphins can get ahead, maybe force some more pass situations, which would ultimately likely lead to some more rushing attempts on scrambles for Fields. So yeah, that's why I was backing the Fields, but I do like the Franklin play for what it's worth as well.
Yeah, for sure. And Derek brought it up too that there could be some weather as well that
Yeah.
might play into that where the passing potential just also drops down, right? So, all right. So the link to this parlay, we dropped it in the chat. You'll be able to click that. It'll take you directly to the sportsbook to be able to tail. So I want to recap this one more time before we get out of here. J.K. Dobbins rushing under, Jake Browning interception under in Jets Dolphins, and Troy Franklin for an anytime touchdown. You can get that just over 18 to 1 at DraftKings or just under 22 to 1 at Bet365. So that is all for us. I want to thank you for watching Action Island for Monday Night Football. We'll be back here on the island for Thursday Night Football to kick off Week 5. So on behalf of Nick Giffen, Derek Carty, Kyle Murray, I'm Gilles Gallant. Aloha and bon chance.